Hi, it's Doni here on behalf of IAmHipHop magazine, the podcast. I've got the pleasure of speaking to Niquelle LaTouche, and am I saying that correctly, Niquelle?
Yeah,
Right, okay.
Niquelle.
And the infamous, the guy, the man, Jonzi. I feel like every time I see you, I'm fanboying you. I'm following you around, usually in a park or outside Sadler as well. I'm always chasing you, just to shake the hand of a man that does so much as well. So John Z is the founder, artistic director of Breaking Convention Academy, or Academy Breaking Convention and Breaking Convention. And Niquelle, you are the head of school for Academy Breaking Convention, as well as I was looking to your repertoire. I'm like, how? How have you done so much in your life, and you're so passionate about something? So it's an honor. It's a real honor to be talking to both of you today. Seriously, I'm a bit nervous, a bit excited, and I want to get through a lot. I think I started off earlier on saying I'm very excited at coming to Stratford. And the thing is, Jonzi, maybe with you, because I think there was an interview or you made a statement about visioning a hip hop art school like Fame. And I just wanted to talk about, where did that vision come from? Because everyone knows how active you are in the scene in hip hop, and unfortunately, we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of hip hop as well. So how has this all come together, and why have we chosen Stratford as the home?
Well, the roots of this come from when there was a Bonnie Bird award, yeah, and Bonnie Bird was famous as being part of the people that established Laban notation as a thing. And there's a school called the Laban that was part of one of her visions. But anyway, the point is, when I was asked to provide this award to someone, I made a point in my speech, which was at Sadler's Wells, to talk about the idea of creating a new education and establishment and having a reason why you want to do it. And Bonnie Bird was well known for that. I talked about my experience at the London Contemporary Dance School, how that school was made because of a new development in dance. And I thought, this is my chance to talk about what I think is that we need a hip hop education and establishment, keeping in mind how much I've been involved with the culture and how much I love the culture and how much of a rich and enriching thing to do, which is hip hop. I just thought, yeah, man, based upon each one, teach one, old school, new school, let's make a school. Anyway, wow. Alistair, who was the artistic director of the building, he then said to me, Jonzi, we're building a new school. We're building a new building in East London. Would you like to place the school there? And it was hard to resist. Do you know what I mean? The idea of being in East London, just down the road from where I grew up. You know what I mean? Like, it's walking distance from where I was born. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
So that was that. But the vision really was influenced greatly by the kids of Fame. Yeah. And I'll tell you why. Because there were so many people of color in that context. And that was one of the main things. He had teachers there that were of color. You know what I mean? And I just imagined like someone like Niquelle working for this particular school, you know what I mean? As a black woman and as someone who's got so much experience, I just thought that there's no doubt about it. This woman can easily lead this. I didn't tell you that. Did I tell you that, Niquelle? But anyway, yeah.
Well, that nicely talks about Niquelle. I mean, you've always envisioned creating spaces for like-minded and inclusive spaces for people. You worked a lot that as well. So what was your vision with when Jonzi spoke to you, when he came to you and said, like, we've got a school? What was the vision there?
I didn't speak to her.
Oh, no, he did. It wasn't a conversation. I applied, in the same way that anyone would apply. I had a 2-stage application interview process. So it wasn't a matter of like already knowing him through the scene kind of thing. It was, I went through a whole interview process. But I think what was clearly a shared skill set that both Jonzi and I have is that we're both polymaths. So we all both do several forms of art in our practices. I studied fine art at uni. I also studied English literature, but I'm also an English teacher qualified. But I produce music. I'm a choreographer. I've been a poet since I was 14. So like we both dabble in many art forms that speak to hip hop culture. But also I dance hip hop and have danced hip hop for many years. So I'm very much in the culture of hip hop. But I, through this process of application, realized actually my place in this vision is to translate what the education world has to our hip hop understanding and our hip hop culture, to keep that value, ethos, and love from hip hop, but put it into that educational structure, translate it, and make it make sense on paper. Essentially, that's where I now see where I sit, and I've realized since starting the role in September, my space in this is definitely going to be helping our scene think about their practice and how we can improve our ways of teaching our art forms, making sure that it's aligned almost with the ways educators do that, so that we can almost talk our stuff in a way that is valued, in a way that is less criticized, in a way that is contextualized for people to understand it holds the same value and weight as any other type of education. So yeah, that's kind of where I sit in the vision of this.
I'm baffled. I mean, I'm just trying to wrap my brain about how do you take an art form, make it into curriculum, and put it into something that matches or meets education standards to make it an actual qualification. Like, I don't even understand how you can start making that process. So how does that come about? How do you work on that?
It's been something for me personally that I've been championing for years, just because I've always done both. So my long-term vision has always been to try and combine the two. I definitely think my skill set as an English teacher has been, you know, even when I was doing my teacher training, like my first placement, I got an outstanding on, and that wasn't because I was like this expert teacher. It's because in the arts, we naturally find ways to differentiate. We naturally find ways to see SEN or neurodivergent people and find ways to make sure that they get it too. So the difficulties that are in education, we naturally do as artists, but it's not made explicit to us. And what education has helped me do is see it explicitly and understand that actually, if the artist knew that, we can share practice almost. So I've been really championing that in majority of my career, and really about the fact that we can do both, and both ways can translate and help each other and support each other. It really does have that interconnectedness, because even if you're studying English, you're studying poetry. Rap's a form of poetry. Yeah. But we don't study raps, you know, and it's a missed opportunity also in English teaching that we don't get to do those things, and because it holds that cultural significance and the popularity, and it's more relevant to today. But equally, I don't want to do the, you know, kids now can only do hip hop as access. We want to be able to access Shakespeare and know actually Shakespeare's borrowing conventions from hip hop, you know, and having that relationship back and forth. So a lot of my stuff's been around like inclusive practice and making sure we open up space to value where people come from, what kind of worlds they bring to the classroom. And I'm big on knowing the difference between like a teacher and an educator. A teacher is, I hold the information, you're here to receive it. An educator knows we're in a world where everyone's learning and everyone has stake, and we're all learning from each other. And that's an exciting thing, but that's totally embedded in hip hop. Like that is the underpinning of hip hop culture. So that's where I think it's not as hard to translate, because the practices are the same. It's just that you have to have people that respect both to do it.
I got to second that fully. Yeah. It's not an accident that we refer to old school and new school. It's not an accident that we talk about each one, teach one. Do you know what I mean? It's not an accident that these types of terminologies exist as integral to hip hop culture, because look at what hip hop has done without an institution. Do you know what I mean? It's done brilliant things. Technically, it's amazing. As an option to have a career, it's become that now. There's people who have got careers simply based upon their hip hop skill. You know what I mean? And the fact that we've not needed an institution for so long, if I'm going to be honest, it made me question, why do we need one now? You know what I mean? But I think that what Niquelle is talking about is exactly why, because we need to upgrade the education system to be able to embrace what the culture of hip hop has done to the world. Do you know what I mean? For us to not see that within an institutional context means that I think that we are failing the new generation of artists that can see how successful hip hop is in our world today.
Yeah, I completely see that. I think what you said about the institution and the new school and old school, it's kind of, we've been taught, we've been given blueprints. I mean, to quote Jay-Z, we're given blueprints. We know the education. When you look at hip hop, when we look into it, we look at where artists came from. We look at the development of areas from Rapper's Delight, and when that all started evolving, the problems that have come through it. We've had stories being told of situations or socialist issues by people like Immortal Technique. You know, Tupac, they've always talked about issues. And I think even when I joined with IAmHipHop, they always mentioned about the voice of the voiceless. And I think today, even with the situation that's happening now, most of the messages I get are through poetry or rap or haikus and delivered through that. A lot of them usually are music based. You know, I'm very receptive to music. So I'm going to be quite interested in, when I've always seen Breakin Convention, I've always associated it with purely dance. But with the academy, what's going to happen there? Because it seems a lot more broader than, and I don't mean to say it condescendingly, like just dance, but it seems like there's a lot more behind it. Like, I feel I've come to a different experience, and I think I want to understand a bit more about that. Like, what would be expected, and what's the vision from Academy Breakin Convention?
Well, really good point that you made about Breakin Convention, that there is a focus on dance. That was not accidental, yeah, because I think that at the time, around the time where I first started doing Breakin Convention, rap was so much pushed to the fore, as in that is what hip hop is. And anybody that knows hip hop culture knows that that's not the case. You know what I mean? And also, I think that the music industry has allowed almost a bastardization of original hip hop values. You know what I mean? So for me, it was really important to highlight the other elements of hip hop culture within the context of Breakin Convention. So yes, dance is really big, but graffiti is also a massive part of the Breakin Convention experience. DJs, another aspect of the Breakin Convention. We've never done a Breakin Convention in the building, let alone in the Park Jam, without DJs. You know what I mean? We also have rap at Breakin Convention. Do you know what I mean? We have these rap moments in the mezzanine area. We have rap featured in Freestyle Funk Forum, which is something that we do every year at Breakin Convention. And we often feature rap on stage as well. So I in a way, I kind of disagree that it's a dance show. I think it's a hip hop show where we're leaning into dance a lot. In relation to the school, there's no doubt about it. You cannot call a hip hop school unless you're learning all of the elements. You know what I mean? Yeah. So basically, we've got Breakin, which, where dance and hip hop is concerned, some people argue that Breakin is the only hip hop dance, whereas popping and locking are West Coast styles. But in my hip hop life, I have never been in a space where there was not popping and locking as well as breaking happening at the same time. So I think I don't want to get too pedantic about what people talk about as as East Coast hip hop and West Coast hip hop. I'm trying to bring it all together. You know what I mean? So there's also rap, there's beat making, there's DJing and graffiti. So all of the elements are presented. And I have to say, I feel a bit bad about not mentioning beatboxing a lot more often.
Oh, can I pause you there? Because you mentioned that you missed a couple. Music production's also on the course. Locking's not an element. Locking's not an ABC element. We're doing the social grooves. That is one of our foundational forms. But also to speak to the question you asked about the dance heaviness, of our 7 elements, 3 are dance. So we do kind of, in the same way that Breakin Convention has a dance dominance, we do have more dance elements than anything else, but it's not dance focused because we want to kind of broadly touch on all of the kind of forms that are under it. And also to speak to the kind of contentious issues within the hip hop industry of what isn't. We're specific that these are like the ABC elements. So our interpretation of what is the foundational things that encompass hip hop. Obviously, there's general consensus on some things like breaking, but where we've included things like popping, that is because of our understanding of what hip hop is and where we want to include it in terms of where we want to think about it for theatre and theatrical use. So it's not to say that other forms like locking couldn't have been included, but realistically, in 2 years, to say that they're going to do everything, it's just unrealistic.
Right.
So we've kind of made sure that it's really clear that these are like ABC elements of hip hop, as opposed to like what hip hop is and isn't in terms of our stance on it.
Will there be a development for after, for example, if there's furthermore education? Like I think when it comes down to like development, say someone has outstandingly is an amazing producer or an amazing performer. I think I went to a break convention and there was a lady in red in a single shot with a spotlight, and I've forgotten her name. It's really bad of me, but that performance, how it moved me on the day, like I'll never forget that. And it was just a piece of music with someone performing. Like when you get someone of that level through the academy, what would happen with them? Is there an artist development? Is there ways to teach about the business
that's the biggest question for me, is that they'd be at the beginning of their journeys post ABC. We wouldn't expect them to be fully fledged artists practicing. Like, yes, they'd have a sound foundation across the elements. They'd have clear indication of how to make their work accessible, think of the context of their work, a clear sense of who they are as artists and what they want to do, hip hop specific wise. But they're at the beginnings. So naturally you'd want to continue for the alumni to get the opportunities that are like Breakin Convention specific, but also Sadler's Wiles specific, and also career opportunities. Part of the course is about career development. So it could be that they go into further education. It could be that they get placements. It could be that they work with some of the organizations we bring in. We're exposing them to a high caliber of artists that will just be their teachers, and they'll be based in a theatre that has ongoing opportunities for artist development, etc. So they kind of get a bit of a head start into the industry in a way that if you were studying just, within a repertoire, you don't have that access as your base necessarily. So they have a bit of if we get some outstanding producers, naturally it seems like creating a pipeline for them of work or at least experience in other companies is the natural way to go. But yeah, our alumni, ABC could almost act as an agency post them finishing the qualification to be able to kind of give them work and give them opportunities for the legacy of the project. Also, it would be great in the longer term for those students to eventually come back and teach or workshop, or do you know what I mean? Anything that creates a base. I think one of the shortcomings of a lot of just artist development projects is that there's no follow-up after them. And you do the course and you learn the things, and then you kind of just left on your own to figure out how that applies. And that would be, for me personally, a deep failure in our course to give them all these tools, start them as clear artists in terms of their emerging journeys, but not support them post the course. So that is definitely something we want to be able to kind of keep a legacy going of supporting our alumni further than the course, for sure.
No, I think it sounds
really... Sorry, I was just going to jump in. It's a really interesting thing because I've been thinking about what the progression route for this particular course is, and are there any other courses that are able to satisfy where they've got to on this course? Do you know what I mean? Because there is no other course that are fully doing the hip hop elements like we are. Do you know what I mean? There is no degree course that does that yet.
But even if it wasn't hip hop specific, and I think this is also something we need to think about, is transferable skill is a thing. So you might be a rapper, but your ability to shape writing for storytelling can go so many different ways. It doesn't mean that you necessarily have to write rhymes. You could then become in advertising. You could be part of a screen, or you could be part of writing press, you could be PR. So much opens up through transferable skills. So we're looking at these elements, yes, as the basis of them developing their artistry, but also letting them understand that by doing a hip hop skill, even if it was like a dance-based skill, you're learning discipline, you're learning routine, you're learning the ways to tell stories, bring audiences together, you're learning ways to physically speak to people who maybe don't even share language, cultural background, socio-economic structure. That's a huge skill set that can cover so many different industries, and they'll be open to different options and transferable skills that it opens up. So yes, they may not be hip hop artists. They might choose that, you know what, I just want to produce, and they've never touched a stage again, and that would be okay too, if that was the pipeline for them. You know, we don't want to be prescriptive in where they evolve it to, but we just want to give them the skill set to know, you know it, you understand it as a base, and you know what it could open up for you. You do with it what you want, you know.
Yeah, I think what you said about the opening up, it comes back to the polymath thing. Is like most people think if you rap, all you can do is rap. Just what you said about writing for other people, making adverts, writing prose. It's true. I think as myself, I'm a DJ, and just seeing what I can do as a DJ to make other sources of income and sustain it, because I've got to an age where I don't always want to be in a nightclub surrounding these things, and you think where you want to share your art. And that becomes the main thing as well. And I think with people, especially what I imagine when you study it, you're on a 2-year course, it's something very personal and it's education. And I said this yesterday, when something feeds your soul, you have to respect it with the utmost. And once you realize how much we respect our art form, then we elevate to another level. So I'm really excited about Academy Breaking Convention. I'm quite interested to see where the development is. My biggest question is, and I think maybe again we're that ages, and I think I've got a lot of friends that would sit there and think, why would I send them to Academy Breaking Convention to go in this form? Even though it's a qualification, it's recognized, it's a qualification by professionals, but a lot of people won't see the value in it, and that's where I'm quite interested in seeing where that goes. Like, how do we target what type of people would come, and what would it attract? And that's my most exciting thing, because I think as any young adult, as any young child that would be looking for anything, this is exactly where I'd want to go, to use the skills that I enjoy and have, you know, and go to the academy. So I'm just seeing where it would fit in, and how do we push a new academy in the area.
Yeah, that is, as someone who themselves had a very Caribbean dad who's, you know, told me to do the maths and the Englishes and the sciences.
Yeah,
I always think back on that question as, you know, parents, now as an older person myself and an educator, in that decision, because it's an integral decision in your career structure. You know, the 16 to 19 is a really important age of nurture. But for me, I think what is a real pro of this, one, the cohort size, you only have 20 students for the whole 2 years. In an average classroom, you have a 30 at least, and there's overstretched, very limited resource. So you don't actually get that contact time that you could have to nurture in the way that we have. Pastoral care is top priority for us. So everyone will have, you know, time with tutors. That one of our whole days of the week at present is being timetabled for self-development and well-being, which I know in my experience as an educator, very rarely is that in the actual timetable, and it's an afterthought or an add-on or a once a week career thing. You know, you do it once a year and it kind of disappears and fizzles out, but that's embedded in the course as a structure for the education itself. But also in terms of that amount of introspective time, because we're practicing an art form, a lot of the time we learn these art forms outside of educational structures. This provides it in a way that you're kind of revisiting information in a way that, you know, you're conscious of what you're developing as a person. And I think to give a young person that level of introspection and self-awareness so early in their careers, you know, they'll be reflective practitioners by the end of this course. And that's such a huge head start for us as adults. Like if somebody told me journaling and all of those things, to know where my mind is at when I'm making work or what I want to put out in the world, I could be conscious of that before making work and know the right people to talk to develop and do all of those things for myself. that would have accelerated my career massively as a younger artist. So I think, yes, it comes with, you know, we're a new thing. And with that, having been part of many pilots myself, you take a courageous cohort to be part of a new thing. But I do think with being part of a new thing, you're also the cohort that shapes the thing. So there's a real, you know, reciprocal relationship that's going to have with the students, where they get to evaluate the course, they get to feedback, and it will shape the next year's thing. We will change parts of the course as a result of working with students, where you don't have that much flexibility in a more mainstream structure. It's kind of standardized and set, and it maybe revises itself in the next academic, you know, revision. But I think there's a real partnership in the way that this course will work and run, which is really unique to a course. And of course, we're responding to the real world. There's not this classroom versus, you know, us outside. It's one thing, and art is responsive to what's happening outside of itself. So the students are going to have to be engaged in what the world's doing, have to be engaged and holding really progressive discourse. You know, we're going to be able to give them the tools to be able to hold space and talk about stuff from a place that isn't reactive. And to do that as just people is a huge skill, to not let your emotions speak before you thought about things, and they'll have a clear sense of their own stances on whatever the situation is, be able to hear opposing views, hear different things that are outside of themselves, because maybe their cultural backgrounds or ideas are different about the world, but also have respect for that, because they all value otherness in a way that is unique to art, I think.
So this feels along the line with like your other ventures, like It Takes a Village Collective and stuff, like bringing the empathy and ethos and a community. I mean, I'm just imagining that. So I've got a picture now. I'm sitting there, you know, like when I was younger, I learned to play guitar from my geography teacher, who probably never played a show in his life, who's never been in that stage. And now I'm sitting there, I'm one of 20 kids with direct access to people that are doing it, that are on the stage, that people are working every day. They're successful, but they go home and they practice hours on end. Everyone's telling you that you've just done the best step, but you're like, I missed one step, you know, and conducting that. And I don't think anyone could have given this collection. I'm quite intrigued. I'm a fan of Sadler as well. I'm quite intrigued that why is the choice, and why does it seem like Sadler as well is the best place for Breakin Convention, Academy Breakin Convention? Jonzi, this might be the best question for yourself as well. Like, I think they're one of the best stages I see, and you guys use them amazingly.
Well, the new space, the stage space is the same size, but the audience is, I think it's about 500. Yeah. Also, we're able to move and shift the performance area in ways in which normal proscenium art spaces is more than that. So I think for the stage, it's exciting. See, I trained at London Contemporary Dance School, which has a theatre attached to it. And I just remember thinking that was the best place to perform, because we'd have professional companies coming through all the time that we were able to literally engage with and speak to and stuff. So I hope that we are able to create something like that for this particular school. Also, Sadler's Wells, they've shown a commitment. Yeah. 20 years ago, if we only did Breakin Convention once, I would have been happy and I would have been impressed that we did it. You know what I mean? The fact that we're here 20 years later is testament to the progression that Sadler's Wells as a brand has had as a result of embracing hip hop culture. You know what I mean? So it doesn't surprise me whatsoever that we should just keep going with this journey. Do you know what I mean? It's making sense.
And they're the best for it. I'm just going to, the other thing is, I think my final point of this is what I'm quite aware that we might cut off. So I want to get this quick is, what's the overall aim for the impact of Academy Breakin Convention? Like, what's the vision that we're hoping to achieve with it?
There's a few, and I think Niquelle can chuck in a few as well. But for me, it's always been about presenting hip hop culture and giving it a space in which it's respected, just like any other artistic culture. You know what I mean? It's not relegated. It's not low art, if we're going to look at the term high art. You know what I mean? Because that term high art, it's based upon our understanding of society. It's based upon our understanding of capitalism. It's based upon our understanding of strata. You know what I mean? And I want hip hop to be seen on a higher level rather than seen as low art. We want to present the street with the respect that it deserves. So that's one of my things.
I would say mine is more gearing towards the opportunities that can come through hip hop. I think it's more about opening up the career opportunities that could come from the art form, making young people aware of how they're inventors of our potential market of careers and job market. When, you know, we go to university, by the time we leave university, the job market has shifted. And I think these are the students who spent the majority of their formative years in lockdowns and saw markets fail and fall through. So they're very conscious and very aware of their ability to create jobs for themselves and multiple skill sets feeding into opening up and increasing their employability prospects, but also for them as leaders, young leaders in this industry. You know, it's a lot of the time young people get a lot of slack in terms of their contributions to the wider world. And I think any young person that comes through ABC will be very aware of the impact of art as a vessel to make people feel, make people move to action, make people come together and commune, even if it's over conflict issues in the world or issues that are high stakes and high tension, because art has that ability to do that. And it's transcendental. It goes past our social pockets. It goes past where we come from. It goes past class. It goes past race. It connects us in a way that is super, super important. And they're going to be conscious of their ability to lead. And that is super important for young people to be able to be told that they have the power to contribute to, you know, pockets of people and how we form new connections as humans, you know. And I think that's, if they could come out of this course, yes, making undeniable art, but also being able to be empathetic, caring humans that want to just seek to understand other people through their art and know that they have the power to create opportunities for themselves, I will feel like our job is done.
Oh, that's so beautiful, guys. It's honestly so beautiful. Thank you. I think as a main thing is, like, if you think there's someone that should be with the academy, what's the best way to kind of get through towards as well, other than just Googling? Is there a process to join the academy?
In terms of students' applications?
Students, or if I know a young student that I think potentially in a year or two should join the academy, how do we gear them towards it? Is it just a case of apply? Is there an entrance process?
Yes, is the natural way to apply if you wanted to attend a cohort. However, in between cohorts and application processes, we'll be holding events. Obviously, Breakin Convention happens annually, so we intend to bring our young pockets of people into that festival to keep them kind of connected throughout the year. Summer programs, we have open classes that happen as well. So there'll be other things around the wider programming, but also in Sadler's East, we have the open dance floor. We hope to program in some events throughout the year for that as well. So there'll be all around kind of things, but yeah, you send an email, get in touch, start the connection. We're open to conversations. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you very much, guys. I think we're running out of time, so I'm going to stop this. But Jonzi, Niquelle, thank you so much for your time as well. Thank you.
Thank you.